Hi, it's April 15th, 2020, and this is our daily video web reflection for April 15th. April 15th in any normal year would be tax day, and thanks to COVID-19, we've all got a couple of months of reprieve before we have to file our taxes. But this day always makes me think of a question that got posed to Jesus during Holy Week, the week between the triumphal entry into Jerusalem and Easter, a question that was posed to him about paying taxes. And it's such a famous or well-known story that it's actually given us an idiom or a saying that is pretty common. So I'll read the story to you. This is from Matthew chapter 22. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere, and teach the way of God in accordance with the truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. That answer of Jesus, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's," comes up in, as I said, an idiom that's common in everyday speech, or at least used to be common. You may have heard it under an earlier translation, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's." I love this story about paying taxes because Jesus makes a really key point here that I think we sometimes miss. And it's one that is a little bit subtle. You have to understand a little bit of the context of what's going on in the story here. This effort to entrap Jesus is part of a series of conflicts with the opponents that Jesus has during Holy Week. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Herodians, a bunch of different groups that are opposed to Jesus for different reasons, make attempts to sort of trap him in his words. And this is another trap. And here's the trap. If Jesus says that it is not lawful to pay taxes to the emperor, then he's a revolutionary against the emperor, and the Pharisees can denounce him to the Romans for that. If, on the other hand, he says it is lawful to pay taxes to the emperor, well, then he's a bad Jewish patriot, and they can denounce him to the public and to the crowds for that. So they think they've set up this trap, that they've backed him into a corner, and that no matter what he says, they can denounce him to somebody and put a dent in his popularity and his reputation, if not outright get him arrested. And it's interesting how they start their approach with all sorts of flattery. We know that you show deference to no one and do not regard people with partiality. You teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. As if Jesus isn't going to see through this. These are people who've been opposing him at every single turn all the way through his earthly ministry. And now they come to him flattering him. I think most of us would say, what is it that these guys want here? What's really striking, though, is how Jesus puts the onus of the question back on them, and how they reveal themselves to be hypocrites, as Jesus puts it. When they ask the question, is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? Jesus says to them, "Why are you putting me to the test? Show me the coin used for the tax." Now, the coin in question, the denarius, was equivalent to a day's wages for a laborer in Jesus' day and age. And because the Romans were occupying Palestine, the denarius was a commonly available coin. People carried them around, they paid their debts with them. The problem is that a denarius has the image of the emperor engraved on it, which means that for a good observant Jewish person, it's a graven image, it's an idol, it's a violation of one of the commandments. And to be carrying one in the temple, it's an unclean item. Jesus shows the Pharisees to be hypocrites here because he's actually in the temple when they try to put him to the test. When they ask him this question, he's standing in the temple. He asks them to show him the coin, and it's like, "Oh yeah, sure, here, I got one right here for you, Jesus." And they pull out the coin that is itself an unclean item. The Pharisees are people who pride themselves on maintaining a priestly level of purity even though they are lay people. The very fact that they're carrying this coin around with them in the temple shows that they are hypocrites. But then Jesus really gives what I think is a beautiful answer. He asks, "Whose head is this and whose title?" And they answered, "The emperor's," or Caesar's. And he responds, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." You notice what he's doing here? He's equating ownership with image. The thing that bears Caesar's image, the coin, and that bears Caesar's inscription, the coin, belongs to Caesar. By extension, then, the implication here that Jesus is making without actually having to say it out loud is that the things that carry God's inscription and that carry God's image belong to God. And what is it that was made in God's image? Humanity. Us. Our lives. When Jesus says, "Give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's and give to God the things that are God's," what he's really saying is, yeah, give your coins to the emperor. Who cares? What really matters is, who do you give yourself to? Who do you give your life to? Because you bear the image of and the inscription of God. I think that's a good question for us to reflect on. Who do we give our life to? Are we aware on a daily basis? Are we remembering that we bear the very image of God, that we bear the inscription of God, that we were created in God's image, and therefore we belong to God? And not only that, but every person we meet, every politician we disagree with, every person on this planet, whatever else they may have done, whatever else we may think of them, also bears the image of God and belongs to God one way or another. There's a lot more going on in this story of Jesus in a conflict with the Pharisees than a question about paying taxes. Jesus does this all the time. He takes a question about a frankly insignificant matter where they're trying to trap him and ups the ante and points his audience and us to the much more fundamental and meaningful question. The ultimate question Jesus is saying here is not whether or not we pay taxes to the emperor. Pay taxes, don't pay taxes. It's frankly immaterial. What really matters is, what do we do with the thing that bears the image and the inscription of God? What do we do with our lives and with our very selves? So I invite you to reflect on that question today. Are you aware every day that you bear the image and inscription of God? Who are the people who for you bear that image and inscription? Who are the people who for you it's hard to see that image and inscription? How are you giving to God the things that bear God's image and inscription? May God continue to bless you and your family this day. May God keep you all safe in this time of pandemic. And may the day swiftly come when we can all worship together again. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay safe.